Hello everyone and welcome to .NET Core Central. Today I'm going to dive into one of C# most powerful feature for performance optimization, and that is the span type. Now span type is a generic type, so it can be used with any other type. If you ever needed to work with a very large amount of data efficiently or reduce memory allocation inside of your application, then span is the right tool. Let us start with basic span. Now span is a value type and it represents a contiguous region of memory. So it's essentially one data after another data inside of a span are allocated next to each other instead of spread across the normal allocation. And think of it as a window into the data that lets us work with it without creating unnecessary copies. That's how span essentially works internally. So in this example, what I have done is I have a message. Now for doing a substring, we can do message.substring, and then we can do a console.writeLine, and which is going to output hello, because we are doing hello and there is a .NET Core Central span tutorial after that. Now when we do this substring, it essentially creates a new string object, so it allocates twice the memory essentially. Whereas when we do a span and then we do a slice on the span itself, there is no new allocation that happens. It takes the inline data and just uses it as a new span from the same location. And so now if we do a toString of it, it's going to return the hello. Same thing, but different allocation in terms of memory. And if I run it, we're going to see the same output as expected. Now let's talk about a real life scenario. And in real life scenario, a lot of time we do parsing of data. So I've created this class here. So we have a data which is essentially a CSV, or a comma separated string. Now in traditional approach, what we do is we do a data.split, and then we can select a particular integer out of it and to array. It gives us an array of integer. Now this creates multiple string allocations. With the span approach, literally there is zero allocation, and which is we can do data.span, which essentially creates a span of characters here. So we're taking these three, and then numbers is new int of 3, because we will be converting this allocation we have to do because we have to allocate 3 integers. But beyond that, there is nothing else which is going to happen. And if we start with it, so here what we are doing is for each string.length, we are going through each item, right? And then we are finding if the comma has arrived, or I is equal to length minus 1. I basically is the end of the line. In that case, or end of this line here, in that case, it's going to find the length. Now for length, if the index is equal to length minus 1, that means it's the end. Then just take I minus start plus 1, because the whole length, you're basically at whole length. So you take the whole length minus the index plus 1. And if it is not the case, then you take the I minus start, because now you are at, your position is here essentially, because it's 0th index. So it will be 5 essentially. So it will give you the length, and then you take the numbers of the number index, which starts with 0 and increments by 1 based on the incrementing of the number index here itself, because we are doing number index plus plus here. Does a in.parse of slice from start to length. And then if we, this is going to do this, let me do one thing, let me print out all of them. So then we can do, again, I'm just doing string.join of this number 2. So the number 2, which is an array of integers, so I should get the same output as the input, but I'm doing it to show that it converted properly. Now let me run this. I forgot to call the class, so let me get rid of this. And then let's say performance demo dot parts number, and let's run this code now, and you can see the numbers as expected. So this is how it significantly reduces the performance, but it gives the same output. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind in terms of best practices. Here in these examples, we are using read-only span. Now, we should use read-only span when we are not modifying the data. If we are modifying the data, then we have to use span, but otherwise read-only span is good. In this kind of scenario, read-only span works really well because we are not manipulating the data. The span cannot be stored as a field in a class, so that's something to keep in mind. It is very well suited for situations where we need method parameters so that we can avoid copying. This is something to keep in mind. And it is really, really well for this kind of operation where we are doing parsing and formatting. Now, one thing we can do is, for example, there is another example I wanted to show. This is more of a performance hack that we can do. For example, if we have a text equal to some text here, and then you want to do something like contains. So the standard, it came up with some code, I am not using it, but what we can do is, for doing a contains, we usually will do text dot toLower dot contains, and here just say here. That's one way to do. Let me comment this out, and if we run it, it's going to output true, which is expected. But a better performance optimized way of doing this is going to be text dot span, and then contains here comes with a string comparison. So we can do string comparison dot ordinal ignore case instead of doing this way, which is standard toLower, and this one here, because we are doing span here, it is going to reduce the memory consumption. So this is a good performance hack because it is literally zero allocation at this point. So let's run this, and we can see true and true both cases, which is expected, but this is a zero allocation implementation versus new allocation happening here. So just to recap what we have gone through, span provides zero allocation access to memory. It is perfect for high performance string and array operation. It is essential for memory optimization for when you are dealing with large amount of data sets. So that is all I wanted to share for today's video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel and you think you are getting value out of the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks so much for watching this video.